9, count 1. Lawman. News, no. Lead all checks. Lawman. News. Oh. Check the smoke pressure on. Check the trim advisory on. Check your heading north, minus 158. Check your altimeter at 0, minus 3005. Check the barrel warning at 0. Check the FCS, 12, 30, 30, 30, and 4. Check the seal. Check the seat on, flight 7. And Thunderbirds. Check the smoke pressure on. Smoke on. Smoke off. Good afternoon, boss. Surface winds are 050 at 10. The altimeter is 3009. Boss squawk 1201. Hoop squawk 1205. Timber squawk 1206. We own the airfield and the airspace. You're clear for taxi and takeoff. Have a good one, sir. Thanks, Mo. Clear for takeoff.
You're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 37.
37.
Yeah. Today we're flying beer can width.
Yeah, that's another great Lawman story, buddy.
Yeah. Look at the photo that is associated with this episode, and you'll know exactly what. Look at the distance between Dash 2 and Dash 3's wingtips.
And Dash 4's canopy.
Yeah. You'd crush a beer can in there. Oh, my goodness. Which almost brought us to the other title of this show that we laughed about in the show.
I know. It was a hard choice. Was it Lawman hits the boss all the time?
And we just paint the jets. Go fly.
He has such great stories, and I'm excited for this final episode of Lawman to come out. The final in this series, I should say. He's got stories still to tell, so we have to have him back. He's got fleet stories.
I have a feeling he's going to have to change some names to protect the guilty. I'm just saying.
You know he is.
Absolutely. So this is a fun one. You guys have enjoyed 4 hours with Lawman so far, and here's the final one of this recorded series. We've been kind of holding it in abeyance as we brought other people through. We didn't want to over Lawman you. By the same token, I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, I have too.
In the meantime, sit back and enjoy this one.
On the tanker,
Don't sit on the ejection seat
through
handle.
the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that. Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was.
Which is how all great aviation stories begin. Welcome, everyone. This is Fig.
And welcome back, Lawman. Glad to have you
Yes,
back.
welcome, Lawman.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
We had a great time recording with you the other night, but we went pretty long, but we didn't get to a whole bunch of good stuff.
And I talk about Dino being hard on me. I tell you, that guy, the 6'4" slot pod, the third year guy, he was a god to me.
Right.
But he was a tremendous instructor. I mean, he really could, if you can imagine trying to teach a new guy how to fly Blue Angel formation, the maneuvers with sticks in a briefing room, and of course talking to you airborne and pointing things out both in the air and on the ground, trying to give you a little help, tidbits. I mean, that's a pretty hard job to take guys from different positions and teach them to do that kind of flying and hold the standard. And they hold the standard. If you're just not where it's supposed to be, you're going to hear about it. So
Right.
Dino was certainly an excellent instructor, but rolled me hard like everybody else.
Well, would you liken it to the same? Remember that the DIs were hard asses, and if you ever asked them why they did it so that you would be better at paying attention to detail, focus, getting used to being uncomfortable, that sort of thing. So it seems to me
exactly
like Dino was doing the same thing for you. He was a mentor, a hard ass, but a mentor in doing.
He was a mentor and a hard ass. Anybody, and he's trying to get you up to the Blue Angel standard, and they're not going to lower the standards. Hopefully for anybody.
Right.
Either here's the way the Blue Angels fly, and either you make the grade, you cut it, or we cut you loose. And they love you, but there's a certain point if you're struggling, everybody struggles.
Sure.
If you're not consistently putting your jet where it's supposed to be, or you're flinching and we can't trust you, they're going to cut you loose.
Sure.
I mean, that's just a harsh reality to do that on occasion. But I was, again, completely lost. Only new guy in the diamond that first year. I told you about that burn loop on takeoff where I got to
Right.
watch the guys fly. I thought, oh my God, that's the Blue Angels. And, and then I screw up the
Looks
rendezvous
cool.
and get
Oh,
yelled
crap.
at, Yeah, holy cow. There was a lot of that going on where I'm thinking, these guys are really good. I suck, like compared to Boss 3 and 4. And of course, Hoops was a lead solo. He's in his third year. He'd been 7.65. So I got
Okay.
the lead solo who's flying off of me in the line abreast loop and critiquing me because he's got to fly off of me on the right side of the line abreast loop.
Right.
I got a third year guy doing that. And then the other solo pilot was had been on the team for a year as number 7. So he got to absorb a lot of knowledge, a lot of time in the jet, the blue jet. He's a big guy, 6'2", 215. I'm the only really new pilot in the airplane with the Blues that year. So a lot of kind of pressure on me to step it up to the game. But little things like you have like a practice schedule, right? And you introduce new maneuvers because you can't do everything day one. So you slowly introduce maneuvers throughout winter training. And Dino, being a slot pilot, would put together the training schedule. And so you get the schedule for the next day. Oh, okay, tomorrow introduce the Fleur de L'is. Darn. So I'd go back to my little motel room when I get my SOP that the previous number 2s had passed down, and I go to that section. Because I knew in my mind the Fleur de L'is looked kind of complicated,
Right.
Have you ever done the Fleur de L'is in any other jet with 6 jets?
No, we just don't do that.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
It's
neither
one of the
have I.
maneuvers they don't teach us in flight school. in
Yeah,
basic form.
some of that.
Now, hold
bullshit
on a
about the
second.
narration,
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
I was involved in a Fleur de L'is one time, but
unintentionally, I'm sure.
it wasn't briefed and it was unintentional. But
unbriefed
go
Fleur
ahead.
de L'is. Yeah. So I had, of course, seen the Blue Angels perform Fleur de Lis. I'd never done one as a right wingman. So
Sure.
tomorrow morning says,
de
AM
Lis.
flight introduced the Fleur de Lis. So I read my SOP, and Fudge, the guy previous number 2 prior to me, is a great guy, but I don't know what happened. He did, of course, these guys had it down to science at some point, but it was very, maybe 3 sentences, the whole Fleur de Lis description in my SOP, how to fly number 2. Basically, the SOP is how do you fly number 2 on these maneuvers. It was like 2 or 3 sentences. I go, it's got to be more to it than that. So I take my SOP and I walk down to Dino's room that night at the motel, knock on his door, because I'm all concerned. I want to get this in my head. So I'm ready to fly the next morning and do this maneuver. And Dino's, of course, laying on the bed watching TV, like, NASCAR or something like that, scratching his belly. He's got all this shit in his head. And he goes, Lawman, what do you want? I said, hey, I was reading the SOP on the Fleur de Lis, and it doesn't say very much about, I have no idea what to expect tomorrow, to be honest with you, on this maneuver. He goes, don't worry about Lawman. We'll talk about it in the mornings. Get the hell out of here. So I show up next morning. Yeah. And he takes some sticks, talks to me about the Fleur de Lis, how we start, roll out in 6-plane formation, up we go, smoke on, up we go, and then ready, break.
So what people don't realize is that we would brief. We had little model jets that you bought from the hobby store, and we had them on 2 and 3 foot sticks, and that's how we taught formation. You'll do this, you'll do, and instead of flying your hands, we actually used models on a stick.
Yeah. So Dino's across the table with me. He's got 2 F-18s, and they're blue and gold with Blue Angel F-18s on sticks.
Nice.
And he walks me through hey, when the boss says, ready, break, and you can hear ready, roll. The break is, so much right stick, and I call it a yug, a little bit of G, to get the breakaway displaced from boss laterally, if you will. Okay. And then a ready roll call. And that's just a full displacement roll all the way back around, right roll to wings level. This is on a loop now. You're doing a loop course, you're all the way going up. And then you'll look up and you'll see boss, continue over to the top on the loop. And you'll see number 3 rendezvousing on the left side, and you'll see 4 in the slot rendezvous. And of course, these guys have all done it before. So if you're anywhere near those guys, Lawman, you'll just rendezvous. It's easy. Rendezvous with the boss back in the diamond set, 3-foot set, hopefully before the top of the apex of the loop. It's that easy. Ready, break, ready, roll, rendezvous, back in the diamond set on the top of the loop.
What's the big deal? That doesn't sound hard.
Yeah, that's not hard to do, right? Yeah. So,
well, remember, Fig. Hold on. Remember, Fig. Lawman sucks. So
yeah. There you go.
He sucks because Dino keeps telling him he sucks. Right? He knows every day he sucks because Dino doesn't let him forget that.
So
that's right.
So Dino makes it sound pretty simple. Lawman just break and roll.
Just come on,
get back out there. So of course, you got to go all the way out to the area over. I think it was Shade Tree, right? El Centro. And you do some of the maneuvers, rolling loops, and all kinds of other blocking and tackling drills, essentially. Then we go here, okay, rolling out. We're behind the crowd for the Fleur de L'is. Here it is, the Fleur de L'is. Rolling out the Fleur de L'is. Lawman, snooze, Dino, hoops, timber. Smoke on, up we go. Ready break, ready roll. So in my mind, I think, hey, I break, I yug, pull away from boss's jet. I hear the ready roll. I roll my jet all the way back around right, max stick deflection, the wings level. I look up expecting seeing boss's jet above me, of course, snooze about where I'm at roughly, and Dino's jet below, all rendezvousing. I see 3 tiny dots out there. I have displaced so far. I'm like, I'm in the next bombing range. I've done like a barrel roll almost to the right. I am so far away from these guys. Dino looks at me and with complete, again, disdain and contempt. Lawman, go away. Don't even clear.
Just go away.
Don't even bother. Yeah.
Just go away.
And just now you got to wait for the whole new setup. To try it again, because there's nobody in the back seat with you teaching how to do this stuff. So you go out and do it again, and next time you're closer, and you do a little bit better. And then one day you wake up, you do it, ready break, ready roll, and you roll out, and you're about roughly where snooze is on the left side, and then somehow magically you end up rendezvousing somewhere near the top of the loop, and then you just get better and better at it. Wow. But initially, it really does kind of suck.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, that's funny. Well, years ago, I did a brief podcast. I think I did about 4 episodes, and I interviewed one of the Blues. He talked about the first time in the jet he went out in the 2-seat. He did 4 seasons with the Blues due to a couple mishaps and that sort of thing. But he talked about the first time he got in the airplane to go do stuff. The guy said, "Hey, let's get up to an altitude where you're comfortable doing aerobatics." And he said, "Pass it through 3,000 feet." His instructor, one of the Blues, is like, "Yeah, okay. At some point, you're never going to get down to where you need to be. We're plenty high. Stop." So I guess that leads me to the question: is how long did it take you to get comfortable with the fact that you were flying 50, 100 feet at the bottom of a loop instead of 3,000 feet? And how long does it take to get up to speed on these maneuvers? You guys are out there for 4 or 5 months before you do your first show, right?
You fly. We start flying training in the end of November. After the last show in Pensacola, you train mostly section work, and then you work up the diamond and a little bit of Delta stuff before you transit El Centro. So you fly a little bit in November, some in December. Then you go to winter training in El Centro, California, first week of January. You fly twice a day, 6 days a week, January, February, into maybe 12th of March. Somewhere just prior to mid-March. And if you look at the logbooks, it's pages and pages of entries for January. It's not, in a Harrier logbook, you may have 1 page.
January would be a half a page.
Yeah. In the Blues, it was literally 3 or 4 pages of 1 month of flying. It was twice a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 3 times a day, depending on circumstances.
Was that
and you look forward.
A 0.75 or a Lawman, 0.75 or an hour each?
The training sorties were roughly an hour. Called it, the air shows were only really maybe 40 minutes, but I want to say some of the training sorties, because you had the transit time, at an air show, you're taking off typically right overhead the field. So you're right into it, and winter training you had, except for over the field show practice days, when you're at Shade Tree, you had the transit from El Centro to the range and back. And that was time added on, which was painful because that was still on the spring. And there were times that 1 hour, maybe sometimes an hour plus training sortie, I was in, again, we talked about the spring force, physical distress, thinking I literally don't think I can make it back to El Centro. I think my hand and arm are going to give out before I get back. I'm thinking, please God, when's this going to end? I mean, the pain, I'm not exaggerating. Everybody's a little bit different. I'm a small guy, and I did the best I could to contort my body to fit into that seat, to get the best body position I could relative to the spring, and looking mostly left toward at Boss's jet. And again, we talked about they tape the trigger down so that the trigger doesn't move, and they tape it, and how many wraps of tape they use based on how big your hand is. And they precisely, if you want 6 wraps of tape around the trigger, they give you 6 wraps every time. So the trigger, the stick always feels the same. Right. Nothing changes. And boy, my thumb rested against the stick on the right, my right hand. I started to bleed. I would bleed in practice because my right knuckle would rub against the stick with such force on the 1 hour that after a while it would bleed. And then over a period of weeks and months, I actually developed a callus, a big callus on my first big knuckle, my right hand. I never, when in the fleet have you ever bled in your hand holding onto a stick? You know,
Right.
It's just different. I'm not saying every Blue Angel bled. I'm just saying I would bleed until I developed a callus, and then you get used to it. So it takes time physically to get adjusted. Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Initially, the spring, it sucked. It really was a very physical challenge and a mental challenge to be able to hold on. But after you say months into this kind of flying, you actually wanted that spring force because it gave you the confidence to fly that close, you know, to really get, you can really finesse a jet when you have 40 pounds in your right hand. It gives you the confidence to really get close to other jets and roll and loop, not just talk about echelon, you know, 1G for the brake, like the fleet guys would do in echelon. I'm talking about rolling and looping in echelon in diamond sets and really getting tight sometimes to where almost insanely tight.
Well,
But
you described it in a text to me, beer can width.
Yeah,
Right,
so
that.
beer can width is put it in context. So beer can width, if you look at some Blue Angel diamond photographs, the diamond 360 is the tightest formation the Blues will intentionally fly.
Okay.
It's a diamond set and it is tight, and you can get as close as it's well inside of 36 inches, you know, canopy to wingtip. In fact, number 3, he's counting rivets under because they cheat. Every jet cheats a little bit so that the diamond looks like a perfect 360 diamond from the crowd perspective, not from where you are. You know, so there's little cheats in each formation sometimes to make it give the proper perspective from the center point. Beer can width, at least during my time on the team, was where you would put 2 and 3 would be so close relative to each other's wingtips underneath boss with the slot pod, of course, below us, that you could put a beer can between number 2 and number 3's wingtips. That's about it, about 4 inches.
Wow.
And you could that close, and you're literally beer can width. And all you can squeeze, if you could open the canopy and put something between those 2 wingtips, between the number 2 jet and the 3 jet, it might be a beer can or a soda can. And Dino and those guys called it beer can width. And you rarely flew it. You only did this when you were pretty damn good, you know, pretty solid boss, maybe later in the season, smooth air. And Dino used to call it air as smooth as a baby's ass.
There you go.
That's a term I use. If the air was as smooth as a baby's ass, really tight formations. You know, places you go, it's windy, it's bumpy. You got thermals, you got a lot of hot air, and you're fighting thermals. So we're at Nellis Air Force Base. The first time I flew beer can width. It's my first year. Culturally, the Blues and the Thunderbirds, I think still every year, they do a cultural exchange where maybe one year the Blue Angels go to Nellis Air Force Base and fly. That we do a practice show there. And the Thunderbirds fly, and the Golden Knights may even jump. And then next year they come to Pensacola, and we brief, they brief, we fly, they fly, and it's a cultural exchange through the two demo teams, and you learn a lot about each other and the differences too. So we're at Nellis Air Force Base. My first year, I'm the new guy. I'm the weak link in the diamond. Everybody knew that. I suck. Yeah. I'm trying not to suck as much. The Thunderbirds are in our briefing room. We're in their briefing room, and we brief the standard Delta, diamond formation, the Zen Buddhism brief thing, and the Thunderbirds do their brief, and then they leave our briefing room. And when they leave, Dino turns, not the boss, not the snooze, other diamond guys. He looks right at me. He goes, Lawman, right across the table. Today we're flying beer can width. You got that? I don't care how rough the air is out there. I don't give a shit about thermals. He goes, we're going to show these Air Force weenies how to fly formation. What he called the Thunder Chickens. We're going to show the Thunder Chickens what formation flying is all about in tight Blue Angel traditional formation. That means today in the Diamond 360, beer can width. You're going to jam it in there and you're going to hold still. You got it? So yes, sir. So
yes, I do.
We flew first. So the Blue Angels, we go out there, they brief, we brief. We go, we man up, do the walk down. And thank God, of course, we're in front of people, so no one's going to try to pull any shenanigans with me. We get to the end of the runway. And of course, Nellis Air Force Base is a typical Air Force, 10, 11, 12,000 feet
of runway, hot desert runway. Yeah.
Yeah. So we taxi all the way to the far end away from the crowd because the Thunderbirds have their own crowd there. There's people there to watch these 2 shows fly. we get to the end of the runway. We always have a truck follows us, with these troubleshooters, maintainers. It's like a pit crew, like NASCAR.
Yeah.
So you get a caution light or something.
Oh man, I've had guys swap out the up front control or HUD controller. Right, you're in the cockpit. You don't even get out of the cockpit. They're in the cockpit with tools sometimes swapping out components with you sitting in the jet. It's crazy.
Wow.
You would never do that in the fleet.
No.
Like these guys. And these guys are world-class maintainers. At the end of the runway, we're on the dime. We get on the runway, diamond formation, 4 jets lined up, major wing overlap, and the maintenance truck calls and says, "Hey, boss, hold on a second. Looks like number 2, my jet, has a bullseye left main mount, which means the left main mount, the main tire, has got a really bad bald spot on it. And the problem with that, of course, in formation takeoff, if the tire blows, you're going to have a hard time controlling the jet. Bad luck, or it could blow on landing. So they want to take a look at it. They come out and they look at, hey, yeah, boss, we need to swap out the main left main tire on the number 2 jet. Now I'm thinking, how are we gonna do that? And they say, hey, number 2, shut down your left engine. So in formation on the diamond formation on the runway, I shut down my left engine, and these guys, like a NASCAR pit crew, they jack up the jet.
Unbelievable.
And have the power tools, undo the lug nuts, if you will, ever.
Yeah.
On this left big ass F-18 tire. Yeah, exactly. Put a brand new tire on there and refasten it, tighten the lug nuts. They had a QA guy there, the safety wire. He QA, quick thumbs up. Crank your left engine. So I can start the left engine, wipe out all the flight controls. Everything's good. And hey, you're good. Number 2 jet's good. This all might have taken 5 minutes. I kid you not. Like a NASCAR pit crew. So I got a good main mount, and we do the afterburn loop on takeoff. Now off we go. We flew the entire show, and we did on the Diamond 360. I remember going, okay, Dino said we're flying beer can with. I'm jamming it in there, and 3 will match it. And 3, of course, Snooze was a very experienced, really solid left wingman in his second year, and he could more than match what I could do. So if I could do it, Snooze is going to do it with ease compared to me. So I jam it in there, and Snooze matches it. We fly beer can width. And you're afraid to breathe. I'm holding on because once the boss has, the angular bank and the power and the G set, I think I told you before, he's hamming. The term they use, hamming. He ain't moving nothing, so I shouldn't be moving either. Hold still. And you're afraid to breathe because if you breathe, sometimes you feel like I'm going to move. If I breathe, I'll move the jet. So kind of hold your breath almost, and then smoke off. We're done. We flew the whole show. We land, and I immediately run over, jump into the back seat with the number 3 pilot, which is the right wing for the Thunderbirds. And it had been pre-briefed that I was going to be the Diamond, only Blue Angel fly with the Thunderbirds. That day was me. Pretty good deal, right? So I jump in the back seat. Of course, I got to put a G suit on. I got a Air Force helmet. I've got a mask on. Like, this is different. They fly with oxygen masks and a G suit because the G suit doesn't interfere with the side stick on the F-16. And it makes sense. If you can fly the G suit, by all means, and they're a 9G jet, fly the G suit. So it's just different. And we take off, and I'm flying with Birdman, who's a great guy. We take off and do the diamond stuff and all that. We're talking a hot mic, ICS the whole time. At one point, we get into he says, okay, Lawman, this will be the tightest maneuver we ever fly in the Thunderbirds. And they call it the pass and review. And we join up in this maneuver and in this set. And I wasn't saying, anything, but he goes, I know what you're thinking. He goes, this is pretty loose compared to you guys. He says that.
Yeah.
I said, well, it's different. It's a little bit looser. And he says, you guys are fucking crazy how close you get. He said that. And I said, I wanted to key the mic and say, I agree. Because Dino told me today we're flying beer can with no matter what. So he said, you guys, this is a Thunderbird pilot who's a second-year Thunderbird pilot telling me that you Blue Angel guys are crazy how close you get. And I agree. I'll say, hey, I do agree with that. But that was beer can with the Thunderbirds.
I'll try and put that. You sent me some pictures. You've got one in there, and I'll try and put that in the post when this show goes up.
All right.
What that looks like, and it's amazing. I don't know.
Those are great. Hey, those are great pictures, by the way. Thank you for sending those.
We'll get those up on the website.
And I got more at home. I was doing all those just from the roll, so I might have some more stuff at home when I get back home here in a day or two. But
awesome. So
Yeah.
beer can width. That any chance you ever scraped jets with the boss or with 3?
Yeah, unfortunately, no, I never hit 3. Thank goodness. Now, there's times, I got scared, and there's times I remember in the debrief about, hey, Lawman, a little close today, a little bad clear there, or not so great, or hey, got a little close on the whatever, the out of the line of burst loop. Watch yourself, and there's times you would literally think, I'm gonna hit him, I'm gonna hit the boss, and I would be holding my breath, thinking, please God, let me just get my jet away from him, but properly, because you had to clear properly. You couldn't just panic. You wanted to instinctively just roll away from him, like I told you before, though.
Yeah, but
sometimes
you got 3 other guys or 2 other guys.
Yeah, you got to hold, you got to wait. And the way they preached it was, these guys would fly with you every day, all day, even if you're swapping paint, if you're predictable, if they trust you. If you're bailing on them, forget about it. You're done.
Yeah.
So that was really the beat into you. Be predictable, be trustworthy. You put your jet where it's supposed to be, and don't clear into me without telling me and give me a chance to get away from you. The first day on the job, again, they showed me back in Pensacola all these airplane mishaps, the blues and some mid-airs and some photographs and all that. Kind of just put in your head about how serious this game was, if you will, this business. And you really had to be procedurally very solid and correct. I got that, very little room for error. And that the previous Marine number 2 prior to me had a mid-air with the boss early in winter training. And then subsequently, later on, had been let go by the team and replaced by an experienced Blue Angel who came back. And so the back of my mind, I'm thinking, geez, first of all, I'm not even an F-18 guy. I can't even find the gear handle on takeoff.
Right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about this airplane. And I'm the only new guy in the Diamond again. So like talked about, I suck compared to the other guys. I knew that. I'm the weak link. So a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure on everybody to put your jet where it's supposed to be. And I was struggling with that every day in winter training, praying to God a lot. Please, God, just let me survive another day here. Don't get fired. Don't get killed. Don't kill anybody else. And just kind of chip away, Dino would say, chip away at it, like whittling, when you whittle something with precision, you don't take a big axe to it and chop something off. You take a little whittling knife and you slowly whittle away, getting better at things, right? Yeah. Get to where you want to be.
Right. That
was a great term that Dino would use, whittle away at it. Oh, man. So my whole goal, my first winter training, was not to hit the boss. That was one goal I had, was not to have a midair with boss Ripper, who was a great guy. And a few times he would tell me in a debrief, hey, Lawman, you scared the hell out of me today on that. He would see me come out the corner. I go, hey, I scared myself. But I got all the way through winter training without any mid-airs. Didn't swap paint, nothing. Hey, and I flew my first show at Del Centro. I think I told my mom and everybody else, stop calling me a Blue Angel until I've flown at least one show successfully.
There you go.
Then you call me Blue Angel. So I flew my first show in El Centro, California on a Saturday, and I was struggling. But from the ground perspective, people on the ground think you look good, right?
Right.
But it doesn't matter what they think. It's what your teammates think, and what the debrief and the video, and the Blues who are out there watching, they can tell if you look good or not. So for that, a thumbs up from the old guys. Hey, number 2, you look solid out there, especially the old Marine number 2s. Hey, thumbs up or thumbs down. Because you don't embarrass them either.
Right.
Legacy. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure on you. So I get through my first show successfully, and we go on the road, which is great because now you only fly typically one show a day. You might have to transit on Thursday, cross country style, to get to a show site, but only one show, which is nice versus 2 a days. Called a show mode. You had to just focus and fly very well for one 40-minute show.
Because Dino said the worst part of being a Blue is flying.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, he was right. I was consumed from the first conscious thought when I woke up in the morning as a Blue Angel my first year. My first thought wasn't how great this is, how wonderful. I'm at an air show. I'm going to be flying this F-18 as a Blue Angel. I'll say, oh my God, I got to go fly a show today. And I suck. Relatively speaking, compared to 2, 3, and 4. And so it was just nonstop pressure to perform. And so we go to Dyess Air Force Base. Abilene, Texas was my first road show. And and as a Blue Angel, you don't ever want to miss practice flying. Every practice counts. You can't afford to miss and get sick. And the mantra back then was wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Stay healthy. The best way as a pilot to stay healthy is wash your hands, because you shake a lot of hands.
Sure.
And that was a brilliant and easy advice from the flight surgeon, was wash your hands, like nonstop, and don't get sick. You can't afford to get. There's no spare pilots. There's no bench. There's no reserve.
Yeah, we get spare jets, no pilots.
Yeah, spare jets, no
wow.
pilots.
Yeah.
So we get to Abilene, Texas. I'd never missed a training sortie yet. I went to dinner that night with the maintenance officer to a Japanese steakhouse, and I got shrimp and chicken.
In Texas.
In Texas.
What could go
Abilene,
wrong?
Texas, yeah. What could go wrong? Probably not too smart, right? So what do I get? For the first time in my life ever, I got food poisoning that night.
Oh, no.
I remember waking up in my hotel room. And this is a Thursday night, so we got a practice day on Friday, right? Practice show. And I remember waking up and the room was spinning, literally. I was sicker than a dog. And so I called the flight surgeon, who came over and pumped me, gave me some Gatorade and some other stuff, trying to give me what he could. But he said, based on what I told him, you have food poisoning, no doubt about it. And so the next day in the afternoon, I drive my rental car to brief, and I walk in, the guys who I look white as a ghost, been up all night.
Yeah.
And they said, Lawman, you are not flying today. Get the hell out of here. Go back to the hotel and rest. So I had never seen the team fly without me, right? This is now, March. Instead of going back to the hotel, I went to the parking lot and I watched the team fly a practice show, Little V. So now there's only 3 jets in the Diamond. Boss, number 3, and the slot pilot takes the right wing.
Dino goes over to 2. Okay.
Goes to. So Dino had been number 3. So he'd flown the whole year as number 3. Then he went to the slot. Then he flew 2 years in the slot. So he was an expert on the left wing and in the slot. And he could talk to me. And he had occasionally gone over the right side when 2 fell out for some reason. But he was not trained. So they did all these maneuvers, flew the whole show. And I remember watching Dino had cleared several maneuvers. He'd done the right thing. He was out of position for whatever reason. And he cleared, smoke off, and he cleared. Like, oh, hey, Dino's cleared a few times. So all right. The next day, I feel good, and I'm flying.
Hey, Dino, you sucked.
No, I didn't say that. But
okay.
That's poking the bear right there.
The next day in the morning, I poking the bear. Don't do that. Again, he's 6'4". You don't want to poke this guy.
He's a big guy.
And I go to the gym the next morning. So like it was a Saturday morning, mandatory 6 days a week in the gym, right? There's no G suit. And the best way to have a high G tolerance is to work out with weights. So 6 days a week in the gym as the Blue Angel pilot. I go to the gym. Snooze walks in, number 3. And he and Dino have been buds for years, F-18, A-7s, F-18s, Blue Angels. And Snooze, hey, Lawman, how you feeling? I go, I'm feeling good. He goes, good. He goes, man, because he said, Dino sucks on the right wing.
Well, he can say it at least.
He can say it. He goes, I go, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. He says, got all the skill, but it's different mechanically on the right wing.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
On the line,
ain't as easy as it looks, is it, boys?
Yeah. And then Hoops told me the same thing on the line and breast loop. He goes, hey, Lawman, how you feeling today? He goes, yeah, good to have you back over in the right wing. And then the Poles and Solo number 6, Timber, saying things to, hey, Lawman, be glad to have you back on the right wing. Because even though you suck, Dino's struggling over there. It's just different mechanically, and Dino was very good. But it was different. So I felt good about that. So okay, great. So I flew. I still sucked, but I flew that weekend. And then we go to my third show, which is Beaufort, South Carolina, Marine Corps Air Station.
Yeah.
Right. So now I got to fly in front of a bunch of my Marine buddies, Horny guys. I'm the Harrier guy, flying the Blues, third air show. And we go to the club that night, of course, Friday night, or it might have been a Thursday night reception or something like that. And most of the guys are pretty good about it. A lot of these Marine F-18 guys, hey, Lawman, hey, good luck to you. Counting to look good out there, representing the Marine Corps and all that. But a couple of guys with a few beers came up to me, Marine Corps fighter pilots, God bless them, hey, Lawman, how the hell did a Harrier guy get picked to fly with the Blue Angels? You should be one of us. You better not fuck it up. You better not embarrass us out there. Hey, thanks for the brotherly love and support,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks a lot, fellas.
So I'm getting a little bit of pressure from my Marine brethren at Beaufort. Most of them were good, but a couple of guys just had a couple of, too many beers and didn't think I should be flying with the Blue Angels as a Harrier guy. I got that. So next day, we go fly, and we put the group commander, full bird colonel, in the back seat with Dino. Okay. Typically at air shows, only ever do that with aviators. Guys you can count on who aren't going to freak out on you and do stupid shit in the cockpit when you're flying a show, practice show. So this old Phantom, Vietnam era, Phantom Hornet guys in the back seat with Dino. Full bird group commander. We fly this whole high show, good weather. We land, we park the jets, we do the walk down, we do the hand salute, and I could hear the troops saying, "The boss has been hit. The boss has been hit." You already hear the murmuring.
Yeah.
So we all walk over to the jets. Of course, my jet's right next to Boss's jet, and Boss's right horizontal tailplane, horizontal stabulator, stab, is mangled, and there's gold paint on where there should only be blue paint, if you will.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that he's been hit. And then he walked right next to his jet is the number 2 jet, and the left wing, the Lao 7, the missile launcher for the hold a Sidewinder, which is very hard metal, painted all in gold, has blue paint transfer on it. So it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And the troops are going, the boss has been hit, and then Lawman hit the boss. Lawman hit the boss. You can hear, quietly. The crowd's not hearing this. It's all just a team. And so we go debrief maintenance at a comm cart right there. They got a little wagon. We debrief them. Of course, I got it right up. Apparently, I got damage to my jet. And I felt bad about that because troops, that's the maintenance for the Marine, sailors and Marines. And you still got to go do the crowd line. Yeah. So I got to immediately walk out there and sign shit like I'm some kind of friggin' hero when I know I suck and I just hit the boss. I can't tell the crowd, hey. Yeah. And in the back of your mind, you're going to get beat up in the debrief. Yeah. But you got to ignore all that and smile, talk to people, and sign stuff and try to be positive, knowing that the debrief's coming. We get to the debrief, and they're pretty quiet about it. And it gets to my part and I said, well, apparently I hit the boss out there somewhere, trying to look forward to seeing where that happened. I can fix that. It's really not a big deal. They're all wondering where it happened. We tried to figure out exactly where I hit the boss.
So you were aware of it happening?
No, nobody knew it. The boss didn't know it. You push each other around so much. Yeah. And the Hornet is such a formidable airplane. You've seen F-18s that have had mid-airs with the entire nose cone missing, half a wing missing, and the guy lands a jet with half a wing missing. So the F-18 is a pretty magical airplane. So, and in the Blues, you're flying so close, you're pushing each other quite a bit. You have to anticipate those pushes, or you will get pushed into another jet. Another guy's crossing with you. If you don't counteract that, he will push you right into the boss's jet. So you're always getting pushed, and boss is always getting pushed around. So he might have felt a push.
Hey, Lawman, let me stop you there for a second. I know what you're talking about, and I know Repeat does, but can you explain exactly what you mean by a push?
So the aerodynamic forces between the jets, it's like if you're driving on a highway, best way I can put it is, let's say you're driving your car, a little SUV or passenger car, and a big ass semi truck blows by you on the left or right side, right? And you feel that, you can hear it, and you kind of feel the air or hear it. The dynamics between the two vehicles, if you will, that air, the cushion of air from that truck that's as it forces way down the highway at 60, 70 miles an hour is moving air aside. And that air hits your car and pushes your car. You've all been buffeted by trucks.
That's a great point, highways. Fig. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm sitting there and I knew exactly what he meant. It didn't even occur to me that, no, if you don't fly.
So basically, it's the best way to describe it between airplanes is the aerodynamic forces of the air moving around the jets at 300-400 miles an hour, even though you're relative to each other. If you get too close, there's air being pushed by your canopy or wing that's going to push the jet next to you as the air is interacting with this airplane.
Yeah, you can fly formation with your wingman, and you could get close enough to him where you could move his jet.
Exactly.
With the air flow off yours. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's what you're talking about. Sorry to interrupt, but that was a great analogy. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thanks, Big. So we're always pushing each other. So that even asked the colonel, "Hey, did you see when Lawman hit the boss?" He goes, "Man, I saw a lot of blue paint and airplanes and all that. I don't know what happened." So I thought if Fig and if you and I had been flying together in the fleet and we had a midair of any type, there's paperwork. There's going to be an accident investigation. We're writing statements. We're drawing blood, right? Correct?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
If you hit each other in the fleet with two jets, that's an accident. or an incident, and there's going to be consequences. And you're probably going to be grounded for a while, pending an investigation, right? Then maybe a board or something.
Right.
Okay, who's at fault? Who did what? Who hit who? The Blue Angels say, okay, Lawman, you got too close to the boss out there. Just kind of got to watch yourself. But you're predictable,
Don't do it again.
So, of course, you feel bad for the sailors and Marines. They got to work on jets, whatever the magic they do to fix the airplanes. And we flew the next day. So I flew the very next day, like nothing had happened. But you make a mental note about it. So after that, every time we would land, of course, I taxi very close to boss's jet after we land, taxi to parking. I'm always looking over his jet for, remember the old BDA check, battle damage assessment?
Yeah. Quick BDA check on the boss's jet.
Yeah, I'm always looking. Now I'm not just flying. I'm not just trying to tax information. I'm actually looking at his airplane, like very carefully for any gold paint on blue paint. That's not supposed to be there. And so a couple of months go by and nothing, no incidents. I'm getting better. And you talked about too, also it ties into your question about getting better as you go along, repeat. So as time goes by, I would say most new Blue Angels, probably by summertime, you're probably getting fairly comfortable. Not say comfortable, but you're probably getting proficient. It takes months, in my opinion, to really get proficient when you're doing this every day, to where you feel like you kind of got in your head like the whole, again, the Zen Buddhism kind of thing, where you mentally, if you're working hard, the confidence. I've done these maneuvers. I've demonstrated I can do them. If I focus, I can do it again today and tomorrow. So the confidence is building up as you get better and better. But it takes about to the end of the summer, I think, to really get to where you feel like you're fairly proficient as a new Blue Angel pilot. So that summer, we're in Traverse City, Michigan, which is a great show.
Yeah.
I think it's a cherry festival up there. We take off out of a Coast Guard station and we fly. We're flying over the lake up there. And so there's a Coast Guard cutter is the center point reference. So all these bolts out there, and you got the center point reference through all the maneuvers is a big white Coast Guard cutter of some type. We fly a high show, beautiful day. Everybody's pumped up, and you can tell on the radios and guys are psyched up, and the Blues voice inflection is everything. How a guy sounds on the radio tells you a lot about it. If he's scared, frustrated, pissed off, whatever it might be, you can hear it in the voice inflections. Really careful about how you sound on the radios. You want to sound upbeat and positive and fired up, but sometimes you can tell if fear steps in, you can hear a little bit. Oh my God, this guy doesn't sound. What's going on over there?
It's closer than you wanted, huh?
Yeah. So we flew a whole high show. Sounded good to me. Everybody sounded pretty fired up. We land. I jump on boss's right wing. And I look over after taxiing in, and I go, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. He's got major crush damage on his right stab again. And there's gold paint all over blue paint. I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. And the only jet that flies that close to boss on the right side is the number 2 jet. Now the number 2 does go to the left side for the left echelon roll. So I could hit him on the left side too. But the only jet that flies that close to boss on the right side is the number 2. Well, it's me. I can't say a word because the show's not over. I got to taxi all the way in, park, do the whole shutdown, walk down routine. As soon as we stop, squadron hold, hand salute. I turn to boss, shake his hand, say, boss, I hit you again. He goes, what? And the troops yelling, the boss has been hit. And everybody's running over to boss.
I'm hit.
And everybody's looking at me. I go, God dang it. And we go to boss's jet, and sure, there's that damage to the right stab. And we go to my jet, apartment next door, and there's blue paint on yellow paint. Pretty obvious. I hit the boss. Lawman hit the boss. And everybody's looking at me like, God dang it, Lawman. So we debrief it and pick it apart. And all they say is, Lawman, stop hitting the boss, God damn it. So again, no paperwork, no blood work. I think I'm going to be fired, right? But continue, press. And so we do the Naval Academy show, right? In May, I think it's, fly out of Andrews Air Force Base, remote we call it. So we take off out of Andrews Air Force Base, fly over the Naval Academy, and then go back and land at Andrews. And on that one day, we had an admiral, I think a 3-star, who was flying in the back seat with Dino. And he was N88, the Navy calls it. N88, I think, is in charge of all naval aviation, up at the Pentagon or something. So he's a real experienced senior naval aviator. This guy was probably a Vietnam veteran, fighter attack pilot forever, probably 2,000 carrier landings and all that kind of stuff. Very accomplished naval aviator. And he's flying in the back seat with Dino. We flew the whole show. We go back, we landed at Andrews Air Force Base. We do the debrief, and the boss always asks anybody riding along. So in this case, hey, Admiral, so what do you think? What do you got for us? And the Admiral, typically most guys riding the backseat of the Blues are pretty fired up, you know. Hey guys, that was great, different experience. I really appreciate the chance to fly with you guys. And that was amazing, or holy cow. Because you're just kind of hanging on, no G suit too.
Right.
You're working your ass off. The Admiral was pounding Gatorade. He was soaking wet. It's hard to stay awake in the back seat of an F-18 for 40 some minutes doing, especially the rendezvous, these high G, 7.5 G maneuvers that Dino's doing to get back in formation.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just very stressful kind of flying, physically, mentally. So the Admiral, instead of being all fired up about it, he goes, well, gentlemen, to be frank with you, I'm very concerned. And boss said, what do you mean, sir? He says, I've been watching Blue Angels for, probably 30 years, naval aviation. And I knew you guys flew close, but I really had no idea how close you really flew until I was in the formation in a jet. He goes, oh my God. He goes, I could have touched airplanes anytime I'd opened the canopy, wingtips in my face. Boss's jet right there. He goes, it's insane. He goes, it's way too close. He goes, it's only a matter of time before you hit each other up there doing that. You need to back it off. And Dino says, hey, don't worry about it, Admiral. Lawman hits the boss all the time. We just paint the jets.
Show title: Lawman hits the boss all the time. That's a show title there.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Admiral.
The Admiral goes, what? He goes, yeah, Lawman hit the boss. What, twice this year? No, we got it, sir. Appreciate your concerns. We'll take it under advisement. Gosh. But the Blue Angels don't change anything because some Admiral has some concerns.
Yeah.
The only guys that tell the Blue Angels how to fly, how fast, how low, how funny.
Or the boss in the slot, it seems a bit.
Yeah, pretty much the guys on the team, and you go back to where you asked about how do you get comfortable flying low. As a wingman, you don't worry about, you try not to worry about the altitude. You trust the boss.
Yeah.
The boss is going to make the bottom. He's going to make the bottom. And maybe it's 150 foot, 200 foot above ground level bottom on the backside of a loop at 400 knots. But you fly paint. And you have a sense of the ground coming up at you, but you're looking left or right. Yeah. You want to peek. There's times human nature says, I want to take a peek at my HUD just to see how we're doing.
Yeah.
Essay.
I think. I was going to say, I think it was the worst military demo team accident. It was the Thunderbirds. And they were flying the paint when the lead flew them all into the ground, right?
That was the line abreast loop, 1982, near Nellis Air Force Base. I want to say maybe Indian Springs, T-38s.
Yeah.
Doing the line abreast loop, which I think it only did with 4 jets. It might have been the Diamond that day. I can't recall they did it with 4 or 5 jets. The Blues do a line abreast loop with 5 jets. And the lead solo will join the Diamond for the line abreast loop. While number 6 is out in the timing pattern, smoking a Marlboro or something, Thunderbirds flew into the ground. So the bottom, if you're looking at, say, a 200-foot bottom at 400 knots in a jet, that's a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So if the boss is not going to make it, and everybody's looking 90 degrees left or 90 degrees right, nobody is backing the boss up on that maneuver. Yeah. In that case, the boss for the Thunderbirds did not make the bottom, and all 4 jets within milliseconds of each other impacted the desert floor. Yeah. And of course, everybody was killed.
Yeah.
So not knocking the Air Force, God bless them. They do some great things for our country and the Marine Corps in particular. They said, we're not doing that again. We'll never do the line abreast loop again in the Thunderbirds. They haven't done it since.
Interesting. Okay.
And of the roughly 10% fatality rate over the years, decades, and it's gotten better and better. Certainly in the Hornet, I think, I think of the 10% of the guys have been killed flying blue airplanes, about half of those guys, I want to say, have been solo pilots. So they probably have a higher risk factor. The Solo brothers do. We give each other that good natured, back and forth, but they fly some really challenging maneuvers, and they're max performing that jet all the time. Yeah. Limiter to pull in F-18, limiter to pull, negative G, eyeball out kind of G stuff. Those guys really do some pretty ballsy. They're putting the jet on the edge. They are max performing that jet, and there's very little room for error. And I want to say the last 2 guys that have been killed have both been solo pilots, both number 6.
Yeah.
In this case, I think they determined that there are several things at play. The investigations out there might be open for public record, but fatigue, I think, was an issue, as it is for any aviator,
Sure.
right? So, and it was a Thursday practice day. So the thing about Thursdays, that's the worst day for any Blue Angel typically, because you leave typically early that morning and you transit to a show site. And it might be sometimes maybe 2 legs to get there, cross-country style.
Yeah.
And, for really long flights, we'll get an Air Force KC-10 tanker typically to fly us, to the West Coast, or certainly like to Hawaii, you need tankers,
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're just cross-country flying. You'll fly your Blue Jets, you take off from Pensacola, and you fly 6 jets to, Dump Truck, Iowa, for a show, weekend show. And you get to your show site, so maybe you 1 or 2 legs to get there. You'll land, you'll shake hands with all the people, you'll go quickly to the briefing room, maybe get some Gatorade water, whatever it is, and debrief the transit, the cross-country transit. And then you either brief the show before you left Pensacola, or you brief it then, and we do circle and arrival maneuver. So they refill the jets while you're doing this quick break. The troops are all over the airplanes.
Yeah.
They refill them. And then within this very short time frame, you're back in the jets for what we call circle and arrival maneuvers, which you take off and diamond, maybe do a diamond loop on takeoff or diamond maneuver. And then you split up 3 and 4, going to pattern overhead the field, conserve fuel, and Boston 2 make multiple runs over the airfield, running the lines, which are
Okay,
heading.
so that's a great segue then, because that was one of my questions is, how do you quickly set up? Because there's one of your maneuvers is to be 6 jets stacked on top of each other at the exact center point of the field.
You've got an overhead photograph before you leave that, I'm sure there's better technology now, but back in my day, it was a black and white photograph overhead the field. It may be an F-14 TARPs might have taken, or some kind of reconnaissance, maybe a satellite or some military photo.
Google Earth.
Google Earth. Yeah, these days they probably use much better technology. But typically in our head, it was a overhead black and white photograph, God's eye view of the airfield, in about 5 miles radius, and then usually the number 4 pilot would make the master copy. He would run the lines out, the headings off, all the headings you would need, radiating off the center point.
Okay.
Left and right and 45 degrees off each axis for all the maneuvers that anybody would have to fly relative to center point and that flight line. And then everybody would copy off of that, and then you would study that photograph. You get to your show site, and then I can send you a picture of that when I get back home, show you some of these overhead photographs. And then you would, Boston 2 would start, and I would just fly a boss, just chase him basically, in trail.
Okay.
And he would fly 360 knots ground speed, precisely 360 knots ground speed, because 360 knots ground speed, if I get this right, every mile is 10 seconds.
Right.
A nautical mile, right? 10 seconds.
Yep. 6 miles a minute.
Okay. Yep. There you go. So, and we had these really nice Swiss stopwatch mounted on the glare shield. We didn't use digital stopwatches. You could actually you could see a sweep pan of a stopwatch better at 10.
Oh, in your peripherals.
20. Than looking at a number, right?
Yeah.
So that center point vehicle, that white trailer, would fly the flight line. And when his shoulder was literally, a beam that point, he would take a mark, hit the stopwatch, take a mark. And he would be looking for 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds, he's looking for significant georeference points, geographic fixed points on the ground.
Yeah, a shoreline, a warehouse, something.
A resting gear cable, a shack on the right side. He would call it out loud on the radio. Mark a mile, a resting gear cable. Mark a mile and a half, a large oak tree right side. Mark 2 miles, southwest corner of the Walmart parking lot. 2.5 miles, brown roof house.
Chevy on blocks. That was in vacation, right?
Yeah, and he would run these lines as many times as he needed till he felt like he had some pretty significant reference points for all those bearings, those radials off center point magnetically, and a point left or right. And then he's not writing this down. I think I'm going to say the flight surgeon was. So he's just calling him out on the radio what he's seeing, and then somebody else at center point is writing at the comm card is writing these down. And then I'd get my checkpoints too for my lines on the low break cross and loop break cross. And once boss was comfortable that he had all his reference points that he needed for the show, we would land. Then 3 and 4 would come down and do their circle and arrival maneuvers, we called it, get their checkpoints, their maneuvers. And then 5 and 6 would take off and they would fly and do that because they need a lot of them, of course, for all their opposed and solid maneuvers, really precise. And all 6 jets would do this circle and arrival. So you're still flying, you're flying low, 200-foot AGL, you know, a lot of G turning because you're constantly turning, running lines. It's a lot of work. So you're still, it's fun. It's easy. It's the easiest flying you ever do in the plane with CNAs, typically, because you're just kind of running a stopwatch and looking for points on the ground. You're not doing the maneuvers. Then you would land, refuel, and then you fly a practice show. So it might be your 4th flight of the day, typically 3rd. And now is the hard one.
Yeah.
Not the transit, the cross country, not the CNA, sightseeing.
Let's do the hard stuff last.
Yeah, now exactly. And I remember if the boss is a really solid boss, especially, you know, later in the season, and he really felt comfortable with his checkpoints. This would be on a Thursday, right? He's going to fly Friday, practice show, Saturday show, Sunday show. He would say, I don't need to fly a practice show. And he would talk it over with typically number 5, the opposing soldier, who was the opso, typically a 3rd-year guy, and the slot pilot, and say, hey, what do you think? You guys comfortable? We don't need to fly this practice show. Very rarely we would do that, but sometimes we wouldn't fly a practice show. That was only with a really experienced boss who really felt comfortable with his checkpoints. And the truth is, most of us were praying that boss didn't want to fly. And in fact, some of the guys would, like Dino and Snooze, would look at the boss my first year and go, hey, boss, you look a little tired. Are you feeling tired?
Nice.
Because these guys, like the rest of us, you're tired. And that show is hard work.
Yeah.
And if you could, you want to go back to the hotel and just relax, you know, instead of flying this Blue Angel 40-minute show where you're really laying it out. But typically you would strap it back on and go fly that practice show. And that was really fatiguing.
Yeah.
So I think going back to the Smyrna, Tennessee was a very fatiguing show for everybody. And there was, you know, if you make an error on altitude, on a profile, they call it, where you start your pull down too low. So you start a few hundred feet too low, you know, and you have your checkpoints. Vertical nose up is one checkpoint. How am I doing relative to a nominal loop, let's say? Nose on the horizon, it's a snapshot in point in time. How am I doing right now? Instantaneous snapshot relative to where I should be, nominal to a normal profile if I'm looking for, say, a 200-foot bottom.
Right.
So if you're 200 foot low here and you're 200 feet low on the horizon, and your last checkpoint is vertical nose down, okay? How am I doing? You know, you got to make an assessment, and it's got to be quick.
Right.
And then you got to adjust the bottom to make the bottom, because you can't fly the same bottom. In this case, I want to say he started the pull too low, sort of coming back down.
Okay.
So he's committing his nose low, lower than he probably should have, or nominal to a normal profile. And then there's that recognition at some point that hey, I'm lower than I should be. And you're talking about, you know, the Blue Angels intentionally fly low. We're always kind of pushing the envelope to a point. It's safe but predictable, but there's very little room for error. So you got to make an adjustment pretty quick in some cases to make the bottom. And I think that he recognized that late and was trying to recover the jet. And it goes back to what I think Figure said earlier about, maybe you had repeat about pilots. If you think you put the jet in a bad spot, you're more inclined to stay with it later than you should. Yeah. And in some cases, in the fleet even, we know this, no ejection, because, and why'd the guy not get out? You know, there was no ejection. I'm a Harriers, Hornets, A4s, you name a fleet, right? Tomcats, where guys stayed with the jet way too long.
It's denial. For lack of a better word, it's denial. Yeah. Well, I can get out of this.
Type A personalities, guys that typically fly fighter jets, fighter attack airplanes. If you're catastrophically on fire, guys are going to pull the handle, get out. Hey, give it back to the taxpayers, right? All I know is I was on fire and I pulled the handle, I got out. You know, give it back to the taxpayers. But if you put the jet on a basic fighter maneuver, departed, got low, departed a second time, and you put the jet in that predicament. It's not suicidal, of course, but guys will tend to stay with the jet. So I typically look at a lot of mishaps. No ejection or very late ejection is typically, not always, a pilot error.
Yeah.
In this case, it's really tragic. Great guy, had a beautiful wife and 2 kids, really solid pilot, well respected. It's just a very unforgiving environment. And if you off the profile by a little bit and you're tired, because the routine just put you there, you put yourself in a position where it's almost unrecoverable, or
right.
you eject too late.
That Thursday routine you just described made me tired.
Yeah, it can be very, I think the Blues, after that mishap, changed some of the culture with the team. I'm not going to get into that. I wasn't part of the team, and but I think certainly
I'd be surprised if they didn't take steps to learn from what happened. That's what you do as a professional. You learn from those mistakes. And I'm not even trying to say he made a mistake. I don't know. But you try to learn from even something that wasn't a mistake. So
and there for the grace of God go I. I mean, I almost killed myself. I think early in winter training on a loop break cross rendezvous. I had about a 40-foot bottom on a 7.5 G rendezvous, trying to rendezvous with the boss at low altitude. The maneuver is over, the loop break cross. We're all 6 jets cross center point. Hopefully it's back. And the hardest part sometimes for the wingmen, Diamond and the Solo brothers, after some of these maneuvers, is the rendezvous. Sometimes it's more challenging than the actual maneuver when you're breaking away from the boss. Now you got to get back in a tiny window, so you're doing a lot of high G. In fact, the pilot was killed in Beaufort, South Carolina a few years ago. Solo pilot, I believe that was on the rendezvous after I want to say the loop break cross, or a Delta, probably the loop break cross, where you're trying desperately to get back on boss's wing.
You've got a very short jets, window of time to get
tiny
back aboard,
window,
right?
And so you've got to be. It's extremely aggressive, almost insane what they have. But hey, only way to get back aboard, Lawman, is to do this. Bore sight the boss, 100 knots overtake, and till you can't stand the limiter pull and squat your jet, and roll out and hope you're right there. It's just think about doing in the fleet. Like, what you mean to bore sight the jet? Point your jet at boss's jet and have 100 knots to overtake. He's calling out airspeed, and then when you can't stand it, roll and pull, belly up blind. In my case, like on the vertical brake rendezvous, over the top of your flight lead, blind belly up pull at 7.5 Gs over the top of your flight lead. It's crazy. Now you want me to do what?
Yeah.
And Dean will say, Lawman, if you don't do that, you're not going to get aboard. And you're going, so it's insane. Sometimes
you do know that's dangerous, right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Imagine a blind belly up pull.
That's terrifying.
And I think they've changed the geometry since I left the team, where that was the way you got back aboard in that particular maneuver for number 2 to get back on boss's wing, was a blind belly up pull. Because 3's joined on the left side, low, you can't be down there. 4's coming in behind the boss, that's his airspace. The only piece of sky number 2 had was get over to the right side, over the top of the boss.
That's terrifying, Lawman. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's
so I'm not knocking it, but I had a rendezvous again where Dina was watching me. He knew I was a new guy, and I was G-locking. I could see it. When you're G-locking, it's pretty apparent. G-induced loss of consciousness, no G-suit.
Yep.
Which is a really high threat to the Blues. You got to be hydrated, you got to be fit, and you got to be on your game. There's no surprise. You know the G's are coming, but still you got to be ahead of it. Yeah. And I was trying to rendezvous with the boss, and I was trying to reverse my turn to line the fuselages. His job is not to worry about me. My job, is deconfliction. Don't hit the boss. He flies the profile. My job is to get aboard. And I was pulling 7.5 Gs at the reversal, and I was overbanked, pulling myself towards the ground at 200-foot AGL above the ground with 7.5 Gs, getting ready to pass out. Everything went from, all the color went, everything went to gray. And you knew it, it's coming. You can see it. And I go, and the world starts to close on you. And if your vision gets to about the width of your head, you got that much vision left.
They call it tunnel vision. You can see straight ahead.
Oh,
and that's
man,
it.
I was like, holy cow. I knew you have 2 choices. Either relax to G, to get the G off, get some blood back to your head, or pull harder, or strain better,
Yeah.
And Dino was yelling at me. I think Dino saved my life that day. Lawman, level your wings, level your wings, level your wings. I leveled my wings and did enough G to recover, and thankfully flew away from the ground and stayed awake.
You said 40 feet?
40, I want to say about 40-foot bottom.
Oh,
wow.
And that's a wake-up call. So I'm not knocking anybody. If that had happened to me, that'd have been early in winter training. You never would have heard of me, except for the guys who knew me before my time in the fleet. I'd just been another, tragically
statistic.
Blue Angel killed in
You would have
winter
been
training,
at 10%.
hitting the ground. I've been one of those guys that just so there for the grace of God. Go why. I mean, certainly. And I was very fortunate. It's a wake-up call. Okay.
Lawman, answer me this. I venture to say it's safe to say that is a true statement for every Blue Angel pilot ever. They've come that close at some point.
Most guys,
because you guys train that hard. Yeah, you guys train that hard.
Most guys are probably. I'd be surprised if I ever met somebody who said honestly they were never scared or never came close to either hitting other jets or hitting the ground. So going back, I'll finish up about swapping paint. So one last tidbit to that. Okay. So I hit the boss in Beaufort, South Carolina, hit him again and up in Traverse City, Michigan. Didn't hit him at the air show with the Admiral, thank God. He didn't see that. And then we were flying a practice show early fall back in the field, we called it, Sherman Field. Yeah. And we fly a high show, small crowd, a few strap hangers out there. We land the jets, do the walk down. I turn to shake boss's hand. I hear the troops saying, "The boss has been hit." I'm going, "Oh my God." And everybody stops and looks at me, like, "Damn it, Lawman." And we do the slow walk to boss's jet, and we go to his right side where they assume there's damage, and there's no damage. Oh, go to the left side. It's on. Well. I remember number 2 flies the left echelon
both sides,
roll on the left side, and that's dangerous. Yep. You don't want to be over there. If you're a number 2 pilot of the right wing, you're very comfortable at the wall on the right wing. When you go to the left side, it's a whole different world over there. It's like
backwards.
Really
everything's backwards.
Yeah. You're like Ginger Rogers. You're doing it in high heels and backwards, huh?
Exactly. It's like
you're looking the wrong direction. It's not right.
I'm like, my head won't even turn that way. Like, it hurts to turn and look right. And so we go to the left horizontal stab is damaged, and there's gold paint on it. We go to back to my jet, and they're looking at.
Let's look at the left wing. No, there's nothing there.
No,
I'm good.
There's not a scrap. There's no blue paint on the number 2 jet. We go, what the hell? So we walk over to the number 3 jet, and thank God there was blue paint on the bow of the number 3 jet. And I go, I was like, there is a God. The Navy pilot hit him this time. It wasn't the Marine. And I'm not knocking. The number Fudge before me got, I think, several feet of his wingtip ripped off by an opposing solo pilot on a Delta roll or Delta maneuver the year prior to me. That's more significant. And he landed the jet fine. And then the LAO flew down into the box as designed, into the aerobatic box where no one's going to get hurt. Because the Blue Angels, have never even injured a spectator in 76 years of flying. They've never injured a single spectator on the ground. The only threat is typically to the Blue Jets and the guys flying them, now a gal.
Yeah. All right. I have a question for you, Lawman. Back to the when you were brand new, and it was one hand on the ladder, couldn't look at your feet.
Yeah.
Going up the ladder and coming down the ladder. So, any trips, any slips, miss a rung?
No, I never. Thank God, I never fell. I was always kind of worried about that, falling down, and looked like a goofball getting in and out of the jet. But thankfully, I never took that misstep. I did other stupid stuff. It was crazy. Even like if you wore a jacket on a winter training, they issued us regular old green flight jackets, right?
Okay.
For training.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course, you had these really nice Blue Angel blue embroidered jackets, like a bomber type leather, tanker jacket for air shows if you needed the jacket.
Yep.
But even if you wore the jacket because it's cold on the walk down to the jets, walking to the jets, you didn't, when you peeled off and to walk to your ladder, you did not stop and unzip your jacket and take it off and hand it to your crew chief. You simply turned, unzipped, and put your hands behind you, like, arms straight out behind you.
Like you're about to get cuffed?
Yeah, like a good handcuff, and your crew chief would peel your jacket off for you. You would not stop.
Wow.
And you'd just peel your jacket off,
March away.
Choreographed, and you'd walk up the ladder, it was crazy. Yeah. But everything we did, even in winter training in the desert, if we did any maneuvers where we would break apart from the boss, my first year, they told the camera crew, follow the number 2 jet, follow Lawman. If someone's going to make a mistake, it'll be him.
Oh, nice.
Follow his jet. But
did they at least let you go to the head by yourself, or did you have help there too?
Yeah. No, they would do that. But in fact, when the Thunderbirds, something about the head, it was pretty funny when the Thunderbirds would come out every other year to Pensacola for that cultural exchange. Of course, we always exchange, autographed lithographs. We'd send them a framed lithograph of Blues, and they would send us a framed lithograph of Thunderbirds, autographed by all the team members. We would put it in the men's lavatory, the bathroom, the head, right above the urinals. So when the Thunderbirds would come in to use the urinal, before looking at their picture mounted on the wall in the men's room, place of honor. Just good naturedly.
Beautiful,
kind of
yeah. Beautiful. Now they got to figure out what they're going to do. The Blues have a female this year.
Yes, they do. First ever demo pilot. They had a Thad Albert pilot.
A couple years ago.
Successful tour. Yeah, a few years ago. We met her. And Katie something. My wife and daughter got to meet her at Cherry Point in their show. First demo pilot, and it's only been a matter of time before it was going to happen. And
that's
I haven't
pretty
met her
cool
yet.
stuff. Yeah.
But she's obviously got to be, like anybody, a very accomplished, highly respected fleet naval aviator to make the cut. It's different. I mean, so the challenge for everybody, again, I'm physically, it's different. It's not like flying a gray jet with the stick forces and a G suit. It's hard. It's a wake up call. The no G suit thing is certainly a little different. I think it's easier to adjust to that than the spring. The spring
tension
right
on the
hand,
stick.
Yeah. And so if they don't adjust anything, it's hard for anybody. It's a difficult transition to get used to the stick forces. And I don't care if you could be a 6'4" dude, or 5'8" like me or whatever, and you're going to be struggling for a while. But it's going to be great to see that first time ever.
Very cool.
And because Thunderbirds have had several successful.
Oh, have they? I didn't even know. Yeah. Well, we've been going 2 hours and 10 minutes here, so
time flies.
Yeah. So that's over 5 hours. We're going to be 5 or 6 shows here. Lawman, I cannot tell you how much fun this has been. I actually got a comment from someone on Facebook Live early on that they were having a hard time breathing. They were laughing so hard at them screwing with you over, trying to march back and forth in front of your jet.
Oh, I tell you, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So
we could get back. I got some good, I think, some funny Harrier fleet stories that you guys would appreciate. Typical deployment, Liberty kind of stuff. Typical.
Oh yeah.
What the crazy, stupid things Marines and sailors do on port calls on Liberty around the world.
Well, absolutely. I know I want to get to that because you had, that's like the first half of your career we've covered so far.
No doubt.
Well, let me say this. Thank you so much for your service. God bless you. Thank you. You've made this country a better place. You've made the Marine Corps a better place. And by God, you made the Blues a better place, Lawman.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I was lucky to survive my team, and it was an honor and privilege to fly with guys like that. Boss. Stump, Ripper, Snooze, Dino, Hoops, Timber, all those guys I flew with my first year in particular, second year. I mean, some really good guys. Everybody's working hard. And Dino put it best, just a bunch of knuckleheads who got lucky, they got picked, and working their ass off to put together the best show that you can. That was what it was.
And you mentioned it briefly, but I know you meant it world-class maintenance. That show doesn't happen because 7 pilots get together and go, hey, you know. Yeah.
It really is. Those maintainers are incredibly dedicated. If there's a part that needs to be installed on a jet and this shows up on FedEx, FedEx is the part in typically, I'm not making this up, at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're waking people up and they're going, if they have to, they're going out to that hangar at 2 or 3 in the morning to install a part so that jet's ready the next morning, the next day. Dedicated, unbelievable awesome. Dedication. These maintainers, women and men, had to the jets, to the blue jets. The blue jets always came first, and you could count on those guys and girls to give you just the most impeccable maintenance and the best jet they could possibly give you. It really was. Hats off to them. We just had to fly. We fly the jets and break them, and they maintain them and fix them for us.
Nice.
Hats off.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
We're going to
appreciate it.
Lawman, all this time we've gotten to spend with you has been such a treat for Fig and me both. I know it. And I hope that the listeners are having half as much fun as we're having. And I know that they're having to pull off the side of the road to stop from having an accident while they're laughing at some of the things that you just told us.
Yeah. Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff.
So thank you for your service. And let's throw out a couple other thank yous very quickly. First of all, to all our listeners, thank you for sharing this show with everybody. We appreciate that the show is growing as it is, and it's been phenomenal for us. Please keep sharing it with your friends. And if you are so inclined, please go on the Apple Podcasts app and give us 5 stars at the bottom of the podcast app. And if you're so inclined to write a review, we'd love that. Thanks to Dave Hamilton over at the Mac Geek Gab.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, he gives us the technical know-how to put this thing together and make it work.
Dave's the man.
Indeed.
Well, Lawman's the man, but Dave's also the man.
There you go. The other man. Wait a minute. That doesn't sound right. Let's get out of this quick. Go also, please, to our sponsor, RobinsBirdBrainDesigns.com. If you have any giftee, someone you need to give a gift to, and you'd like to customize it for them, chat with Robin over at RobinsBirdBrainDesigns.com. She does custom slate coasters. She does custom a lot of things, and she will laser etch almost any design that you want, customize it. Shows you put a lot of thought into the gift. Also, folks, we have photos related to almost every episode on the website, so thereiwas.us. So go there, sign up. We have photos on the site. We've got a glossary page, and we also have a links page that takes you to our Rumble site, which, folks, you are following our show. You are sharing our show, and we're all the way up to 31. We need 100 subscribers on Rumble. Doesn't cost anything. But we need 100 subscribers in order to keep bringing you Rumble shows every month, live stream, without having to pay them to do that for you.
Yeah, so sign up. Sign up on Rumble. Doesn't cost anything. Help a buddy out.
Yeah. If you want to email us fig@sothereiwas.us or repeat@sothereiwas.us. We've gotten a lot of people, a lot of listeners have reached out. We've got some listeners that are going to be coming up on shows in the near future. So we're excited about that. And in the very near future, we've got Nasty coming back. He's got a new book coming out first week of February. So look for that next week. Until next week, Big, what would you tell our listeners?
Check 6.
Stay safe.
On the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that. Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
We're cleared for takeoff. The winds are 050 at 10 with a slight left to right crosswind. Check the parking brakes off. Maneuver, diamond, burner loop with a right turnout. Oh man, smooth. Oh, diamond half clear. On 9. Let's get after it. Right about. Smoke on. Off brakes now. Burners ready now. Power is set. Little drive. ready now. Easing the pull. Easing power, easing more power. Stand by the boards, boards.